everyone. So today we're heading to Northampton to look at a Tesla Model 3 performance. Hopefully everything's okay. We're going to see Magnus at ERLS Vehicles. So stay tuned for more. So finally, at long last, I own a Tesla Model 3. I've followed Tesla for a long time now and originally had a reservation on one of the very first 2016 models. You remember the one, the $35,000 car, right? We then decided to move house to where we are now, which quickly scuppered the idea. And although overall that was a better life decision, I'm now finally in a position to buy one. So on the 10th of June, I bought this. So this is my 2019 Tesla Model 3 Performance in multi-coat red. The car has 58,000 miles on the clock. 449 brake horsepower, which by far makes it the fastest car I've ever owned by a long way. Zero emissions, and it also makes a lot of sense for us due to the fact that we have solar and battery storage in our house as well. The Model 3 Performance has an official range of 329 miles, but in reality I would never get anywhere near that, even brand new. And as I've only charged it to 90% so far, I've not had a true test yet as to what it's really capable of. But most estimates reckon around 250 to 275 with normal driving on average, and from my calculations that sounds about fair, maybe a little bit less in reality due to a little bit of battery degradation over time. Either way, it's enough for me on a daily basis, and with the supercharger network we're more than covered for longer journeys as well. 0 to 60 mile an hour takes just 3.2 seconds as well, and the 2019 version has a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack. For us as a family, this is essentially our next step to full electrification of the house and cars after the solar panels and battery were installed. And also this is the most exciting part as well. Previously I had a 2014 BMW 3 Series Estate, which was a great car, but the mileage was getting a little high, and despite the bodywork being in great nick, we felt it was time for a change. It did sound like a bit of a tank at times, and I was always a little wary and tried to avoid starting the engine when I was taking the little one to school. I'd driven Teslas a couple of times before this. I'd driven the Model S twice, once on a test drive and another one on a day's hire that we got. And then I also drove the Model 3 Performance at Fully Charged Live. Funnily enough, it was a red Model 3 Performance as well, so you can see where I got my inspiration from. Driving the Model 3 at Fully Charged Live just made me want to get one even more, and it's great as a bit of a car enthusiast to finally get one. This video isn't meant at all to sound like a brag, and I really hope it doesn't, but I wanted to share it all with you as I'm quite proud, I guess, to finally have a Tesla after such a long wait. And hopefully it helps you if you were debating buying a second-hand Tesla or any other EV as well. Admittedly, I am a bit of a Tesla fanboy, but I'm open-minded enough to know that they do have their problems and issues, particularly around build quality with some of the earlier ones. So hopefully I can give you a balanced review in this video. So off we went to Northampton to pick the Tesla up and did what is hopefully my last ever diesel refill en route. If we look at the exterior, it's always been a bit of a funny one in the Model 3 for me. I think overall it's a good looking car, but there are some angles because I guess the aerodynamic shape that it looks a bit funny. I think the Performance is the best looking of the bunch, with a bigger 20-inch wheels, big brakes and subtle spoilers. And there's a view I get when I look out the window in the morning where it looks like a very good looking car. Overall I like it, but I feel when it's compared to other similar brands such as Audi's for example, they win when it comes to design. What's also interesting is we've found that there are actually two Tesla Reds, which I didn't know before I purchased this. A friend of mine has a 2021 long range, which is a much deeper red than what mine is, with a nicer metallic pearlescent colour to the paint. The red on mine is nice, but doesn't quite appear to have the same depth that his has, even though the paint codes on the car are listed exactly the same. When looking into this, there appears to be a difference between the California produced cars and the Shanghai produced cars, a slight variation in the colour. The bodywork on my car is not too bad. The front seems to be a little scattered with stone chips, and there is a scuff and some small scratches on the rear bumper which I need to get repaired. But it is a 4-year-old car after all, so I wasn't expecting perfection. There were some early Teslas in the UK that had issues with panel gaps and build quality. I noticed it seemed to affect a lot of cars around the boot area in particular, but this one seems generally pretty good. There's a bit of an overlap on one of the doors to the wing that I'm not overly happy with, but it's in pretty good nick and I can't complain too much. If we look at the interior, it's a very nice place to be as well. Because of the design, the glass roof, the flat floor and the minimal dash makes the interior feel very, very spacious. I know some people don't like the big screen that controls everything, but I've never really had a problem with it. Some things are slightly annoying to find, but you can get to everything relatively easy as it's all where you would expect it to be and it's very user friendly. There's loads of storage space in the interior and the car overall as well. Lots of cubby holes in the dash compartments, and the storage under the boot is really useful to stop your shopping sliding around as well, as I found out yesterday. I keep my cables in the frunk or front boot, whatever you want to call it, so that keeps plenty of storage space in the boot for other stuff as well. I think it still looks modern in here, despite the car being out for a while now. There's quite a bit of road noise when travelling at motorway speeds on noisy roads, but it's certainly not unbearable, and it's definitely quieter than my old diesel BMW. In this one, I bought it with a nice couple of added extras as well, including the wireless phone charger that's found in the newer Model 3 models, and also a vinyl carbon fibre wrap on the dash to cover the piano black effect, which is apparently really prone to fingerprints and scuffs. The rear windows are also tinted on this as well, which is a great addition. And this is great as they're probably all things that I would have done anyway. Having driven it for a week now, I have to say the acceleration is just insane. It's really like no other car I've ever owned. On one hand, it provides a nice, relaxed, quiet drive to work, but then eats up road for fun when you put your foot down. It always kicks your head back when you put your foot down. I'm sure the novelty will not wear off for a long time, if ever. And it does it all in pretty much complete silence as well, which certainly takes some getting used to after it being in noisy diesel for a while. The suspension is certainly firm, but as it's a performance model, it's to be expected, and I wouldn't say it was any more harsh than the M Sport suspension on my old BMW as well, although it does have a slightly different feel over bumps. On the way back after buying the car, we decided to test out the supercharger network. We probably could have got home in one go, but I wanted a little bit of additional charge to last me the rest of the week, as I don't have a home charger installed yet. The supercharger network is still a major factor that sets Tesla ahead of all other brands offering EVs in my opinion. The public charging network is slowly getting there, but it's not without its problems, especially with the growth of EVs in general, and currently it's plagued with reliability and availability issues in some places. With Tesla superchargers, there always seems to be that reliability that you would expect, and with the amount of available chargers, countrywide and even worldwide, it makes it all very, very easy. On the way home from Northampton, we started at about 80% charge, I believe. We had a drive around Northampton to get some tea and have a walk, and then made our way back home to the northeast. We mapped the route in the car, and it very quickly picked out a supercharger that it recommended we should charge at. It estimated that we would arrive at Ferrybridge services with about 16% left, and this was pretty much bang on when we arrived. We arrived, found the chargers very, very easy and plugged in. Well, in fact, my 5-year-old daughter plugged us in. That's how easy it is. I already had the Tesla app installed on my phone and had added a credit card, so as soon as I plugged in, the car started charging. Easy peasy. By the time we had a toilet stop 5 minutes later, the car had enough to get us back home again. And by the time we'd had a coffee and played some games in the car, we were at 90% and ready to go. So easy, and at a total cost of £21 for 53 kilowatt hours, so 40 pence per kilowatt hour. This was using the 150 kilowatt chargers, and although I don't plan on using the Tesla network that often, it is good to know that it's there as a backup if I need it for longer journeys. So what have I learned? I feel like there's been a slight learning curve when moving from ICE cars to EVs. It would have made it easier if I'd had a home charger installed prior to getting the car, but it was also not too difficult to make it work either. Luckily for me, after I bought the car on the Saturday, the place where I work commissioned 24 fast chargers, which has been really handy to be able to charge at work, and a charge on the Wednesday gave me enough charge to last me through to the weekend. A granny charge or two to top up the battery here and there, and overall it hasn't really been that much of an issue. But my recommendation would be to get a charger installed before you buy the car. Regarding the car's predicted mileage, I've found already that I don't really rely on this too much. Within the Teslas they have the option of displaying the estimated remaining mileage or the percentage charge. From what I've read and also what I've seen as well, the mileage predictor is pretty unreliable, and I've tended to use just the percentage charge most of the time. I now know that to get me to work uses up 5% of the charge. This is a 12-mile trip and then 5% back again, so 25 miles, and if I didn't go anywhere else apart from to work and back, that should last me pretty much a week and a half, 2 weeks, if we account for a couple of percentage loss overnight as well. So that also ties in with my estimations of 250 miles of full charge range, but very much dependent on how much you put your foot down, which the novelty of that hasn't worn off yet. Please be sure to let me know your experiences if you have an EV or if you're debating getting one, whether that's a Tesla or any other EV, and let me know how the predicted range compares with your actual mileage. So what plans do I have? Back in the day, I'm a little ashamed to admit that I was a bit of a boy racer. I love my cars and messing around with them, modifying them, that kind of thing. And I still have good memories of car shows and the community around cars and that kind of thing when I was younger. I really feel this is the first car that I've really wanted for a long time now, and I do have some plans to hopefully improve it a bit. It certainly needs a good polish to remove some of the swirl marks in the paint that I've noticed, and there's a couple of scratches that I need to touch up. And then after that, I think I'll probably go and get it de-chromed to match the newer 2021 models. I think the new ones just look better, and I'm not really a fan of the chrome around the windows and on the mirrors and that kind of thing on the handles. I'm also not a massive fan of the wood on the dash, so I'll probably look to get the Alcantara trim across the dash, or get it wrapped to match the material on the door cards. Keep debating getting the wheels coated to an anthracite colour to match the de-chrome once I get that done as well, but we'll see how it looks over time. Other than that, I just need to get a home charger installed as soon as possible. But that's about it really. So overall, would I recommend you go out and buy a 2019 Performance Model 3 after a week's review? I have to say I'm very chuffed with the car, and I would recommend buying one. There is some common issues which you need to look out for and make sure your car's covered. The 2021 models that were built in Shanghai are reportedly much better build quality than some of the earlier ones, so if you can, I would go for these ones. Unfortunately, they were just out of my price range. My wife enjoys driving it and now wants one as well, so that's also a glowing recommendation. There are a couple of little bits where you can tell it's an early model car, however, overall it's great and it goes like a rocket. The prices have dropped off a cliff somewhat for used Model 3s now, back to more what you'd expect from this market, and there's now a lot of Model 3 performances for quite a bit less than £30,000, which is a lot of car for the money. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hopefully you did, please give it a like and also subscribe to my channel as well. Next week I'm hoping to do a feature on what the future of EV car showrooms might look like, so be sure to tune in for that one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.